Hello and welcome to an all-new episode of Anime Brain Freeze. We are your Happy New Year hosts.
What's up? It's John.
And I'm CC. And when there's just too much cool anime to watch, we got you covered. As the new year begins, another anime season ends, and thus we will review our final show from summer 2019 today, Demon Slayer Kimetsu no Yaiba. So John and I will join young sword fighter Tanjiro to hunt down the nasty villain who murdered most of Tanjiro's family and turned his remaining sister Nezuko into a demon. And of course, we can't head into the next season without naming our favorites from this one. So as usual, we'll wrap up this episode with Best of the Season. But before all of that, let's take a quick look at the shows who didn't make the cut this time in the Chop and Drop. So yeah, we reviewed a bunch of shows this season, so actually surprisingly few shows for me in the Chop and Drop this time around. Yeah, weird. Only 3. John, how many do you have?
I have 2, and that's it.
Yeah, there you go.
I have a feeling we shared one of them, though.
Yeah, probably. But yeah, let's start. I'll go first. Okay. You get to go first on Best of the Season.
Uh-oh, fine.
Yeah. That's not a fair trade. That's not a fair trade, I know.
I've actually kind of made up my mind this time, but I want to walk my way through it when we get to that point.
Well, I'm very interested to hear what show you ended up on as your favorite. But yeah, let's talk about the so not favorites first. For me, the first one I dropped, obviously, because I talked about when you reviewed it, was Okasan Online, which I only watched one episode of and decided...
Yeah, that show was an experience.
Yes, I guess. And it was not the experience I was clamoring for in this very season, I guess. So, yeah, I dropped it after one episode and was like, nah, I'm good. I don't need another isekai thing right now, even if it's more comedically styled. So, it at least partially worked for you, so that's good. But for me, it was not the thing I needed. I wanted whatever.
Yeah, so. It was aggressively okay. So I think that's a good way to describe it.
Yeah, I guess. So yeah, that's my first show. John, was this the first show that you dropped?
Granbelm.
Yeah, that's my second one.
Okay, so we might share more than one then. Yeah, I mean, it started off kind of neat, but then they just kept piling on new things and new characters, and I just got to a point where I was like, yeah, okay, I'm good, thanks.
The story also didn't get somewhere interesting fast enough, where it was like, yeah, now I need to know. And you're right, the piling on of the characters was like really... Like, hey, here's a new one, and here's a new one. We really learn almost nothing about them, but here, have them fight in this climactic, I don't know, battle royale, death battle thing, kind of. I mean, up to the point I watched, no one really died. I think one girl got rid of her magical powers, stripped of her magical powers. But aside from that, I don't know if things got more serious later on, but it mostly seemed to be a battle for power.
Yeah.
And not to the death. So, but still, it was lacking something. I don't know.
I mean, I will say that Yoko Hikasa's performance as Anna, she turned it up to like 15 a lot. It was like I knew, we knew she could go a little nuts because, I mean, she was Maria in Symphogear as well as a ton of other things, but she was just like yelling her lungs out as that character. I'm like, jeez.
Yeah, I guess she had fun with it.
Yeah, you could tell she got super into the character, which is great. But, that was probably the single best part of it, to be honest.
I mean, the show looked good too, just in terms of animation.
That's true, yeah.
But I didn't like the design of the mechs. Like I said, they looked a bit too SD Gundam-ish for me, or Super Robot Wars, like super deformed robots. I just too I don't know, too not clunky is not the right word. Just I don't know, too compact maybe.
I guess.
Yeah, just not the aesthetic I'm looking for when I look towards mech shows, I guess. So yeah, just not enough interesting there for me to hold on to. So I dropped after 3 episodes, I think.
Yeah, I think I was in there for 5 or 6, maybe. I forget exactly how long, but I watched it a fair bit before I was like, all right.
I wonder if I didn't look up if it went anywhere really interesting till the end. So I don't know. If people are interested in, mech shows are not that, there are not that many these days, I guess.
Yeah.
So it's still could be considered something different from the usual anime output for the current seasons. So if that is enough for you out there, for the listeners, then maybe check out that show regardless. But it felt like it was, I don't know, a bit mediocre.
Yeah, we need a good mech anime.
Yeah. No argument. I mean, we had Gridman, but that also is kind of not really a mech anime.
Yeah, you could classify it as that, I guess, but you're kind of like really blurring lines.
Yeah. It's more tokusatsu than anything else. So even though it has some heavy mech influences. Yeah.
Well,
but yeah, I would like something like, not necessarily like Gurren Lagann again, but I don't know. A really good Gundam show would be fine as well. And aside from the OVAs like Thunderbolt or Origin, we didn't really have one of those, I guess.
I mean, there was Iron Blood, but I know you were kind of toward the end.
I liked the first season, but the second one was disappointment.
A little off
in my
the
opinion.
rails.
Yeah. So what can you do?
It is what it is, I guess. But
maybe we'll get a new good one. I haven't looked at the new season yet, so maybe there's one in there. Who knows? Something might come up. I won't give up hope, but so far, nothing on the horizon, I guess. And Granbelm wasn't one of the good ones either, at least from what we saw. So
what's your other drop then?
Yes, probably the other one we share as well, To the Abandoned Sacred Beasts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there we go. I was already...
Boy, this show started off strong, and then it was just like, being a soldier and having PTSD is bad. And it's like, fuck you.
Yeah, it was really weird. Like, it started with a strong setup and, interesting world and everything where that army corps that was made up of mythical beasts and monsters, whatever, just goes rogue one day, and then their captain decides that it's his duty to bring like his former teammates to justice, quote unquote, like kill them to save the rest of humanity. And if you bring that in context with what the show was about, which is war trauma and everything, and that's how these people behaved, like, soldiers that came back from the war and were traumatized and had a big hole in their life and then didn't know how to handle that. That was the subtext anyway. And then the show deciding that, you can't really help those people, so you have to off them, and it's because they have no place in current society. And it's like, hold on. What? Just stop. Wait a second. And don't make the guy who just decides to do that on his own and not maybe try to find another way to help his former teammates who were portrayed as a family in the first episode or first 1 or 2 episodes. Maybe don't make him like the center of I don't know, of morality and fucking the hero of the show because his stance seems a bit icky. I don't know. Just show didn't really connect with me, and after, I don't know, 3 or 4 episodes, I really didn't like where it was going with its themes and with whatever it was trying to say. And I was like, I think I'm out. It looked interesting enough, like the animation quality was alright, a few janky moments here and there, but it looked alright overall. And I liked some of the designs, monster designs and everything. But yeah, the story and the characters were kind of problematic. And it seems like you felt the same.
Yeah, I think I got 4 episodes in, and it was like, I don't know. I don't think so, man. I mean, there was one episode where I guess, as far as I can recall, one of the soldiers they were hunting down was trying to like make his way back to the sea so he could just see the ocean one last time. And main character guy, whose name I don't care to remember, like sort of granted him that last moment. And that was kind of like, oh, well, all right. And then he kills him, and it's like, oh, all right, never mind.
Never mind, fuck you.
You had something nice going there for half a second, and then you just kind of shat all over it.
Yeah, and it was weird, like that character that got introduced, the girl whose father turns into a dragon beast, like, and then he kills it, and she's like confronting him and trying to kill her, and he's like, well, this and that, and she's like, okay, you might have a point, I will join you on your journey to determine if that is the case. And I'm like, no? Oh! What? Hold on.
It was the most pointless shit.
It's like, okay, we have to get a female side character in here, and she must have a reason to not kill his ass for what he did.
Nope.
Not that understandable. I must see the cruelty with my own eyes to believe you. I wonder where she ended up on at the end of the journey. I can't see this ending with her killing him, because he is also partially beast, and deciding, no, you have also become a danger to society, and I must now kill you. It's like, why did you even fucking join him on this journey? I don't know. But yeah, both of us didn't follow it to the end, so I have no idea if it actually ends like that.
Maybe
yeah,
she ends up dead, because she probably would have deserved it, because she was fucking stupid.
I guess. I don't know. It seems like a weird show. Yeah. Pass. I don't regret dropping it.
Me either.
So, you got another one?
No, I'm all out.
Okay, so am I. That's it for the chop and drop then. Yeah, that was a quick one. But, like I said, we had a bunch of shows to review this season, and that we actually reviewed this season.
Yeah.
And man, that's gonna come back to haunt us in... one of us, I don't know, you seem already decided, but at least, yeah, it's gonna come back to haunt us in the best of the season section. Oh boy. Woof. Anyway, but before that, we have one last review to get to. Tanjiro Kamado is a kind-hearted and intelligent boy who lives in the woods with his family. He has become his family's sole source of income after the passing of his father. And one fateful day he returns from his errands in the neighboring town and finds his mother, his 3 younger brothers, and one of his younger sisters mercilessly slaughtered by a demon. His sister Nezuko is the sole survivor of the massacre, but she has been transformed into a demon herself. Following a fateful encounter with the demon slayer Giyu Tomioka, Tanjiro is recruited into the ranks of the Demon Slayer Corps. After being trained by a seasoned master in the art of sword fighting, Tanjiro, his sister in tow, embarks on a journey to hunt down the demon responsible for their horrible fate, and to turn Nezuko back into a human and avenge the rest of his family. On his way, he meets new companions, encounters a plethora of strong enemies, and realizes that strong family bonds can be a more powerful weapon than any sword. Demon Slayer, Kimetsu no Yaiba. I think Demon Slayer was only added for the US market. I think the show was only called Kimetsu no Yaiba in Japan, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Over
as
here
far
too,
as
I
I've
think.
seen.
I think it's named Kimetsu no Yaiba over here in Germany as well. No Demon Slayer to be found. But yeah, Kimetsu no Yaiba is based on a manga by Koyoharu Gotoge. I guess that's it. It seems to be long.
Gotoge?
Yeah, whatever. Who has done nothing else before this. So this is quite the debut, I would say. The manga counts 18 volumes at this point. It started in February 2016. Yeah, and it's obviously still running. It's one of the big Shonen Jump titles right now, I think. And yeah, Then in summer this year, last year at this point, we are 2020 people. We got the first season of an anime adaptation that ran for 26 episodes and was produced by Ufotable. Ufotable. Some people pronounce this one way, some the other way.
I looked this up a few days ago, and if you read the katakana, it is indeed Ufotable.
There you go. Fantastic. So Ufotable. Great. I always pronounce it correctly. Hooray!
Yeah, because I was like, for a long time, I was like, wait, is that right? And I finally looked up and I was like, ha, yes.
Great. Okay. So yeah, Ufotable, who are currently one of the absolute powerhouses when it comes to animation quality. Pretty much every series by them looks and sounds amazing. Fate Zero, Fate Stay Night Unlimited Blade Works, the Fate Stay Night Heavens Feel movies, The Garden of Sinners. Not the biggest fan of those movies, but they look amazing. Same with Tales of Systeria The Cross. Kind of lame adaptation of that video game, but boy does it look good. God Eater, Katsugeki Token Ranbu. Ufotable seems to be helming the wheel for a lot of mediocre shows, especially in games adaptation department. But those all look fantastic. So I'm glad to report that this show, Kimetsu no Yaiba, wasn't a waste of their talents, because aside from the visuals, this is also just a very good shonen action series. And boy, does that somewhat tried formula at this point profit from Ufotable's capable staff. Kimetsu no Yaiba's strongest draw is definitely its presentation. Every fight in this show has so much impact, so much visual panache. Most of the people in the Demon Slayer Corps use these special breathing techniques in conjunction with their sword fighting. And those are visualized by elements like water or lightning. And man, the way that is integrated into the show's visuals is breathtaking, in my opinion. How did you feel about that specific thing, John?
Yeah, I mean, presentation-wise, this show just, fucking kills it from beginning to end. Every time, this is probably getting a little slightly ahead, but, the visuals for, in particular, the water breathing technique with, the style of, the ukiyo-e painting water on the blade. Fuck, that looks so good, man. Yeah. Every time they use that effect, I was like, oh man, I love this so much. It's
colorful, it's fluid, it's creative, it just looks fantastic. It never gets stale. And there's a bunch of that in the show. But yeah, you're right, especially the water breathing technique by Tanjiro is fantastic, looks fantastic. And that's not even including the actual battle choreography, which is also incredibly versatile and powerful and just really fun to look at. There's this one hand-to-hand combat scene between Tanjiro and one of his future companions, relatively early in the show. That looks great, and just the sword fights later on and the clashes with some demons, just fucking fantastic. Really, really good stuff. And Ufotable is also one of the few studios which makes really good use of CG in anime. Also, obviously, this show, from breathtaking tracking shots to brilliant effects work. I think the ukiyo-e stuff for Tanjiro's water breathing technique is also CG, if I'm not mistaken.
Maybe. I was never really sure about that.
Yeah, exactly. But that's the good thing, because all the other stuff in the show that is definitely the CG is also very hard to point out, because it's so different from most of the CG you see in other anime. The CG is integrated into the visual style of the show near perfectly. Almost no stutter, no stiff weird movement routines. Everything fits together seamlessly. You just have to look at that one scene where Tanjiro is doing a sprint through the woods in an early episode. Yeah. I don't know what he is trying to escape from or something, but he's running through some, sliding under some broken trees and toppled over trees and just jumping over them and then cutting corners and stuff like that. And it just looks so fluid and amazing. And the camera is constantly moving to accentuate his movement. And it's just, looks so good. And scenes like that, stuff like that, show you what CG in anime can really do when it's handled by people who know how to use it. It's amazing. And I'm glad that shows like this exist to make me believe that the CG anime future is not too grim. if, there are studios like Ufotable who can actually use that medium, that kind of technique, without it feeling alien and not integrating in the show well. So, yeah. Fantastic. And the action scenes are not the only parts of the show that are enriched by the outstanding presentation. There are also really suspenseful moments, like when a new demon reveals itself, for example. Some really moody scenes, like really, really dark atmosphere. It all managed to feel really threatening. And like, yes, you're on the edge of your seat because you don't know what's happening. Or there are some really heartfelt and touching quiet scenes between Tanjiro and Nezuko and some other characters. And they're all really well staged and directed. Really good use of color, really good use of lighting. And speaking of direction, Haru Sotozaki, who previously directed Tales of Systeria and has done a bunch of animation direction and key animation, really stepped up his game for this one. Just in terms of what was seen on screen and how much focus was put on certain details. Like, I really like, for example, small bits like when Tanjiro's in training. You see really detailed shots of his leathered hands, I guess, because he trained sword fighting so much. Like, his hands are really torn up and have like this extra parts of hard skin grown on them. They don't really mention that in the show, but you see that, so you immediately realize how hard he has been training. And there's a bunch of small details like that in this show. And it's really cool. I really like that. And I think the presentation really does its part to also enrich the story with these small bits of character development. And the soundtrack composed by Go Shina and Yuki Kajiura is also fantastic and perfectly underlines the atmosphere the series is trying to build in any given scene. Like, be it powerful sweeping orchestrals in fighting scenes, or moody dark tones for the more horror-driven moments, or somber arrangements for the quiet emotional beats of the show. It all just works. And when it all works, when it all flows together, it can create these really perfect moments. There are several of those in the show, where just every part, every gear of the presentation and the storytelling just fucking meshes together, and then the gears start turning, and it all becomes this really almost overwhelmingly awesome and engaging scene. And I think the first time I got that feeling was in episode 6, Tanjiro's first real mission, which came across to me kind of flawless. I think where he encounters those three demon brothers who are really creepy, or at least grind their teeth and shit like that. And it had this amazing action choreography. That was the first scene, kind of, aside from his family being horrifically murdered and everything, where it has this really effectively staged horror and suspense scenes. Where you didn't really know what was going to happen, and the music just went to fucking 11, from 1 to 11, and created this great threatening atmosphere. And like I said, those demons were creepy as fuck. And yeah, awesome music, good CG, all top notch. Everything worked perfectly in that episode for me. I thought it was amazing, just from a presentation standpoint. And then when you add character development and great story development to that, then you get a scene like the final big battle of this arc, kind of this season, which is now one of my top 100 anime moments, I would say. The resolution of that, because if you have seen anything out of context from Kimetsu no Yaiba, it's probably that scene. Because it's so powerful, it's so perfectly staged. There's so many amazing things to be seen in that scene, and so many character moments and story moments working perfectly together, and becoming this one big emotional and amazingly staged action scene. And yeah, it's goddamn. It's one of those things where it's okay, that's what I'm watching anime for. It's you can't look away. It's so fantastic. The music is amazing. The visuals are amazing, and the emotional moment is just fantastic because it relates to the two most important characters in the show and their relationship and everything. And man, John, what did you think of that moment without spoiling it?
I feel like it highlights what the series does best, and that is, the tense moments. Like, I don't want to rain on your parade too much. Like the action sequences and action choreography are all fantastic, and the presentation is awesome. But aside from like the tense moments that really like brought parts of the story and the characters together, aside from that, it just felt like a very stock action anime.
Okay. And I totally agree with you. That's why I wanted to highlight the absolute positive things first. Because that's also my big problem with this show. This is, especially in the beginning, aside from very good key emotional moments. And like I said, when those moments happen, when everything in this show works together perfectly, it creates some amazing scenes, some amazing moments. It's the best anime can get, especially shonen anime can get. The problem is a lot of the stuff in between is box standard, especially when it comes to the shonen genre. Tanjiro's journey, not in its details, but in its setup, is a bit standard. That's not the main problem. I would say the main problem is how it's structured. Like, it's, okay, here is his quest. He has to avenge his family, which is already standard thing. He has this small, little sister character he has to take care of. A nice detail, but also not that special. The special thing lies somewhere else, and how that relationship is developed later on, but I'll get to that.
I mean, at least they put a little bit of a spin on that part.
Yeah. It's not like, at least Nezuko is not a defenseless damsel in distress. That's a really good thing. But I also had some problems with her character. Like I said, I got to that. But then it's Tanjiro learning how to handle himself, like learning sword fighting, then taking basically what is an exam, what you get and stuff like Naruto or shit like that. And then, he fights demons and is on the search for the big bad. And then he meets some other demon hunters and the cast gets bigger and stuff like that. And, it really follows the basic shonen formula, as basic as you can get. Like, the basic structure of the show is not something you haven't seen before. Where it excels are some of the key emotional moments between certain characters and the presentation, which also plays into those emotional moments. But a lot of the stuff that is in between is the problematic stuff. And that is nowhere more thoroughly manifested than in one of Tanjiro's companions, Zenitsu.
I'm just gonna say I hate Zenitsu.
I hate Zenitsu too.
He's an annoying little crybaby piece of shit who's just a stupid little skirt chaser, and never mind, that's spoilers to say. But yeah, he's only ever useful in a handful of situations. And the only time he ever makes himself out to be somewhat smart is in another situation, which is also kind of a spoiler to discuss. But every time he's on screen, every time he opens his mouth, it's like, stop. Please stop.
He's the worst version of the yelly, loud, screaming anime protagonist I've ever seen, I think. Or at least one of those versions. Like, Zenitsu is just annoying as fuck. When Tanjiro's face when he first meets him is a good reaction pic to any scene Zenitsu is in. Because it's like this face colored by disdain, pure disdain with a bit of pity. And whoa, every time Zenitsu is on screen, my face looked like that. And I was like, oh, fuck, that guy again. He is so fucking annoying. He's a bargain bin Sanji from One Piece. Like, He's the creep without the cool. It's horrible. It's fucking horrible. Sanji at least is capable. I mean, Zenitsu is also capable when he's asleep, but still. Yeah. Aside from that, he's creeping on girls all the time. He's screaming all the time. He's whining all the time. Enemies, there's some reason for that he's the way he is, but that doesn't make him that super relatable. And there's not that much character development for him in this first season that makes you think that he will, I don't know, get better himself. He pretty much kind of mostly stays the same character.
Yeah. No, and he entirely stays the same character, I would say.
Yeah, and it's like one of the tropes I hate the most in anime. And Zenitsu is the reason that I almost dropped this show. Like, when he first appeared in the scene, he grinded my gears so much that I was like, oh my god, if this keeps going, I'm gonna drop this fucking show. I hate this thing so much. I can't deal with it. And I'm used to yelly shonen protagonists, but he's really one of the worst I've ever seen. I hated him.
I would say that he makes how Asta starts in Black Clover look good.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Oh my god. At least Asta is not a whiner.
Yeah, and I mean, I haven't watched Black Clover, but I've seen clips of it, and it looks like that show fucking goes places.
Yeah, I always... Every time I see a fucking random Sakuga Twitter post about Black Clover, I'm like, man, I need to get back to that show.
So it's like, seeing that compared to what we got in this is kind of like,
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that there is not, like, there's definitely room for improvement, but also that there's not a chance for improvement with that character. But it seems like the show really thinks that he is a funny character, that he is funny the way he is, that the author of the manga and the director of the anime apparently thought, hey, this is fine. He's a fun character. This has to be this way in shonen land. And no, it doesn't. It really doesn't. And yeah, Zenitsu is really fucking annoying. And initially I thought the other companion character would be the same for me. But luckily, and that's one of the reasons I stuck with this show, aside from the visuals and everything, and we'll get to the other reason after this, Inosuke is great, in my opinion. I think he is a kind of nice spin on the brash, loud, yelly, hot-headed shonen protagonist in several different ways. Because... he comes across as this brutish guy who wears a fucking wild boar mask and has these fucking broken swords, and he just wants to tear into demons, and Tanjiro grinds his gears because he seems to be strong, and Inosuke wants to challenge him to a duel, but Tanjiro won't have any of it because he's like, no, you're my companion. I won't do that. Why would I fight you? It's like... And Inosuke doesn't know how to handle that, because he has never experienced kindness before. So when Tanjiro, who is probably the kindest, most compassionate person in this story, is the only thing he's throwing his way, he has no idea how to handle that, and gets like these weird, funny, fuzzy feelings that confuse him. Like you see like these soft flowers like flying around him when someone is kind to him, and he is just flabbergasted. He doesn't know what to do with that. And he keeps on yelling, and that can be grating too, don't get me wrong, but I think in Inosuke's case it's actually most of the time funny, while it isn't with Zenitsu. Because Inosuke actually feels like a good guy underneath it all, with a surprisingly and weirdly off-putting handsome face under that mask, which was probably one of the best moments. Like, what the fuck? Why are you such a pretty person? But there are so many adorable scenes, like with him, where he receives kindness and has no idea how to handle that. And also, he has some of the most kick-ass moments in the fights. Don't get me wrong, Zenitsu has those too, but they are very short and are preceded by a bunch of whiny, running away, crying all the time, and also fucking leering at girls and yelling a lot in a very high-pitched voice. So, yeah, Inosuke was definitely the better of the two. I can still see people being annoyed at him as well, but for me, he worked. I don't know, how did you feel about Inosuke, John?
I mean, yeah, he was the better of the two, but Inosuke's life and existence is comprised almost entirely of making bad decisions.
Oh, yeah.
And part of that that on its own did not work for me. And I was like, you gotta use your noodles sometimes, kid. But the moments where he and Tanjiro work together, fuck, those moments are awesome. They make such an amazing duo. But everything surrounding that is just kind of like, it's not as bad as Zenitsu, but it was kind of like, all right, okay, I guess that's fine, sure. But, I just want to cut stuff. I just want to fight you. Okay, you can chill out. But I will say it was funny when he got his replacement swords and he immediately started to just serrate the shit out of him. And the swordsmith, whose name I can't remember, was like, what the fuck are you doing?
He wanted to kill him for it. Yeah, that was great. The show is, aside from all the standard shonen trope stuff with, yelling is funny, there are some really funny scenes in this show. There's some really good humor that I didn't expect. And a lot of that is coming from Inosuke, in my opinion, because he's such a fucking idiot, but also pretty fun. And yeah, what you said, that he, makes a lot of bad decisions, and both of us said he's a super hothead and just fucking headfirst into battle, doesn't think about other people. But I also felt there was a bit more development to him than Zenitsu. I mean,
oh yeah,
or maybe it only felt like that. They start from completely different ends of the spectrum. Like Tanjiro's in the middle. He's well composed. He's very compassionate. Very capable. He knows what he's doing. Maybe a bit too kind-hearted at times, but that's it. And then on the one side, you have Zenitsu, who's overly dependent, constantly scared, completely relies on other people, can't do anything by himself, and has to learn to fend for himself, which is part of his arc in this first season, where, in the final battle, he has to stand on his own and defend himself, because Tanjiro and Inosuke are somewhere else. And on the other side, you have Inosuke, who is a soul warrior who doesn't really care about other people, only to fight them maybe, and who only fends for himself and whatever. And he has to learn how to fight as a team. And I felt like the moment of, like you mentioned, him working together with Tanjiro felt much more emotional, rewarding, and more kick-ass than Zenitsu having his loner kick-ass scene. And fending for his own. I felt that moment of Inosuke realizing that he can trust Tanjiro and that they make a great team just felt so much better than the emotional realization or climax or whatever for Zenitsu felt. And maybe that's why Inosuke got colored for me as a much better character, overall, because his arc in this season felt more complete and more well realized.
Because, after the big thing happens and they're sort of recovering, you can tell he's sort of not outwardly reflecting on it, not in like a deep and meaningful way, but you can tell he's kind of having a think on what happened a lot more than Zenitsu does, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But you can tell this affected him in ways that he wasn't expecting.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the show does a much better job at showing his inner workings than it does for Zenitsu. I guess there's some for him too. I just didn't feel for him as I did for Inosuke and his arc and his development. And don't get me wrong, I don't mind weak characters. I am not oh, look at this whiny baby boy. Oh, fuck him. I want my strong, beefy guys who can fuck up any demon. That's not the problem with Zenitsu. The problem is what he is doing is the show thinks that it's really funny and it's more grating than anything else. And also, like I said, it doesn't feel like he really steps out of that zone during the course of the show, while I feel like Inosuke at least takes some steps towards some character development there. And that's why I felt like the better character. But yeah, let's get to our two mains. Kinda. Tanjiro definitely is the main character. The other one of the duo would be Nezuko, and their relationship is definitely the most important thing in the show. Like, that's the reason the final fight of the show, the final big fight, works so well. Like I said again, presentation is fantastic, music, everything, but it also effectively, that fight effectively doubles down on family as one of the show's core themes, and makes you realize how strong Tanjiro's and Nezuko's bond really is, which, in my opinion, at that point, was kind of well needed, because Nezuko only tends to come out in clutch moments during the show. And we hadn't really gotten enough flashbacks to the time when they still had a normal life at this point. So I was happy that that was happening. There are some really emotional flashbacks and everything at that scene, and a bunch of stuff that relates to their relationship and develops that further and makes you realize how close they are. And that really worked for me. I wish there was more like that in the show. You definitely get the feeling that Tanjiro cares a lot about his sister. Like, she's the most important thing in his life now. Right? The rest of his family is dead, and he always cared for her deeply. You realize that. But now it's like, it's his one and only reason to live, basically. Like, he wants to turn her into a human again. He wants to make her happy, and he wants to avenge his family, of course. But that's the second goal. Like, the first goal is get Nezuko back, make her human again, make her happy again. And you realize that, you understand that. The problem is, during the course of the show, Nezuko basically only serves as hey, here's this cute sister mascot character. Also, she's a kick-ass fighter. And that's kind of it. I mean, that's kind of the problem with how her character is set up, because she's a demon. She can't talk, or she won't talk. And she wears this thing in her mouth that makes her, I guess, not bite people. I guess that's what it looks like.
Yeah, the whole bamboo muzzle thing was kind of...
Yeah, it was weird. I guess she receives her character development by way of Tanjiro's character development, because those are deeply intertwined. But she doesn't have that many key scenes aside from, hey, here's the show showing us she still cares about Tanjiro, which is important, because she's a demon, and her still having deep felt relationship with Tanjiro is very unusual and is very important in the very last part of the show, of the first season. But aside from that, you don't get the feeling that she has much agency. And that is even more reduced by her being hypnotized at some point to not harm any humans, I guess. And yeah, I didn't know how to feel about that. It felt like, hey, here's this, I don't know. It turned her a bit into like this little kick-ass robot sister fetish thing than an actual character. And for most of the story. And I didn't like that really that much. I mean, I like her character. I think she's awesome, and she kicks ass, and she's funny, and she's cute, whatever. But like I said, I felt she was lacking agency, and I felt, there wasn't, aside from the very final battle, there wasn't that much engaging character development for her. Maybe it was a bit too subtle in certain parts, because they couldn't give her, she couldn't verbalize it. She could only show certain things through gestures and everything. But also, there wasn't enough of that in there, maybe. And maybe we needed some more flashbacks to the time when she was still human to make it clear how tight the relationship between her and Tanjiro was. I don't know, how did you feel about Nezuko as a character overall?
I mean, I agree on the whole flashback thing. It definitely would have helped with some fleshing out of her character, because she's just, I mean, when she has her moments, they're dope, they're cool.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
It just is sort of bracketed by a whole lot of nothing.
Kind of.
So, I mean, I feel like the only character in this series I actively dislike is Zenitsu. But everyone else is just has moments where you're like, yeah, you're awesome, and then it just sort of rapidly falls back to, I guess you're all right. Like, I don't dislike Tanjiro or Nezuko, but they could have done more, like a lot more to help flesh out their past, their relationship, the fact that how does Nezuko fit in that box, by the way?
I have no idea.
Like
really
that thought
weird.
that thought just sort of crossed into my mind all of a sudden. And it's like, girl, how are you going to fit in that box?
Yeah, I don't know. She is very small.
I guess.
But also I mean, she's a demon. She probably doesn't feel pain that much. But man, that must be super uncomfortable. Even if she manages to fit in there somehow, it must be super cramped. So,
And I mean, the fact that she's stuffed into a box for a lot of the show's run is really sort of indicative of the character's treatment throughout.
Yeah.
Oh, we'll just pull her out of the box when we need her to do something cool. What? You're all done? Get back in the fucking box. And it's like,
it's not as bad, but as Get Back in the Kitchen Woman, but it's close. So yeah, not a fan of that aspect of the show. I don't know if I would call it a small thing because it's a big part of the show, but again, the best moments of the show kind of make up for that part. Like I said, if the show didn't have real emotional engagement to offer, my heart wouldn't have been racing minutes after that one climactic emotional action scene happens in the final battle. And it was not just a presentation, it was everything. But I also felt the importance of Tanjiro's and Nezuko's relationship at that point. Because it finally received some fleshing out and finally received a good look into their shared past and how they, how the relationship to the rest of their family is or was. And that was really good. So if the show still managed to grab me with a scene like that, it shows that there was some building done before in that show. Otherwise, they would have come out of nowhere and it wouldn't have felt earned. It still felt earned to me. But I was still like, okay, you could have done a bit more for that. And it maybe would have been even stronger. Maybe not a nitpick, maybe still a kind of big thing, but it also doesn't ruin the show for me. Because like I said, there are enough other strong moments in there. I mean, like I said, the presentation makes up for a lot of it. Like, the presentation is the strongest point of this show. If you want to showcase good-looking anime on your giant STV, this is the show you should go for. Definitely. Like, it's the look, like how it's amazing. It's mind-boggling how good the show looks. Like, there are several scenes in this show where you have like battles or moments in these weird, abstract, constantly reshifting demon realm houses, whatever, that looks so amazing, and just in terms of how the architecture in this room works, and it's like, how the fuck do you come up with that? And even putting that into animation and everything, it just, man, there's so much cool stuff to look at in this show, and for that, it's reason enough to watch this, in my opinion. And still definitely one of the better Ufotable shows if you compare it to some of the other mediocre stuff they have done in terms of story. There was something for me there, and I think Tanjiro is also one of the most kind of unusual main characters in terms of how compassionate he is as a person.
That's true.
Even when it comes to the demons and their fate. Like, he deeply cares for almost every being in this show. Like, he really feels like the pain of other people. He understands it. He is sorry for them. He doesn't want to kill the demons if he doesn't have to. He feels like they, due to his relationship with his sister, of course, he knows that demons can feel too, and he has a big amount of compassion for them. And that's also why he clashes a lot with the other demon hunters who are cold-hearted killers, which is understandable to a point, but yeah, who only treat demons as evil monstrous prey to be slaughtered. And Tanjiro doesn't see it that way. He sees, no, that was a human at one point, and there's a reason they are the way they are now, and we shouldn't just kill them because they are demons. Like, that's not the way. And you believe him. You believe that this is really how he feels, what he believes, and you feel that compassion extends to everyone in his life, and that's why his relationship with his sister, even though we don't see that much of their early life and how they treated each other there, you feel like, okay, if he is at that compassion towards the demons, we know how he treated his family and how much they meant to him. So it's understandable that Nezuko, even after being turned into a demon, still has this strong emotional bond to him and doesn't attack him and hears his commands and everything. It doesn't completely turn into a mindless demon monster. That's good stuff. And I think if the show didn't have such a strong emotional core character at its front with Tanjiro, it wouldn't work at all. I think he is a really strong main character, at least in that regard, to make the few really good emotional moments of the show work.
Yeah, man, I agree. Because, I mean, this show and the story has a lot of problems, but I don't feel like they ever really compounded together enough for me to be like, nah, I'm done with this.
No.
But, yeah.
It got close, especially when Zenitsu was on the screen.
The presentation, the action, the music, the art direction, Tanjiro himself, those were probably the big things that kept me going with this show. And it was enough to help me see it through to the end. I mean, if he was just another whatever shonen protag, I probably would have been like, yeah, no, I've seen this show before. But those few things, I feel like, compelled me to see this through to the end.
Yeah, definitely. Also, just to name another strong point of the show, in my opinion, character-wise, is the villain, who, while also being kind of standard, is just staged really well, in my opinion. Just in terms of making him a really threatening presence. Muzan Kibutsuji, the way the show starts off is like, okay, he just killed Tanjiro's family in cold blood. That's harsh enough. But then when we first meet him in this fucking amazing city, I think it's Tokyo, right?
Believe so.
Yeah, it's just, well, man, I can't get over this presentation. I'm sorry. But the first sight you get of Tokyo in this show, with the fucking lights everywhere, the city lights and fucking lanterns and the trams, everything looks so good and so breathtaking. It's amazing. But yeah, we meet Muzan there for the first time, and he looks a bit like a normal person in the beginning, and also seems to have a family, I guess, maybe. Yeah, who probably don't know what he is capable of, and you wonder what is up with that, if he really cares for his family and stuff like that. So that's a really interesting prospect for the future of the show. Like, is his family just a fucking facade? Is he just using them for to guise himself as a human? Or is he one of those villains that, has a heart or cares for someone, which makes what he does to other people even more vile? So I'm really interested to see where a character goes in that regard. So that's an interesting setup. But he's also one of the most disgusting, threatening, vile pieces of shit. He puts curses on his underlings that kill them when they reveal his name. He is just abusing and manipulating people and turning them into demons under the guise of fulfilling their wishes. But it's all in the service of surrounding himself with loyal minions, and he doesn't give a fuck about them. And you feel like he's this really scary motherfucker who considers himself absolute and reigns with an iron grip of fear and terror, and doesn't tolerate failure from his servants, and kills anyone who doesn't say what he wants to hear. He's just scary. He's just really threatening, and you feel like his power is kind of overwhelming. It's just, and the thing is, so far he hasn't really acted that much himself. He had his underlings do the work for him right now, as a good main villain should, I guess. But he didn't really get his hands dirty, aside from killing Tanjiro's family, of course. But you also don't know if his main reason for doing that is just to amass power or to survive, to demons need to eat humans, I guess, to survive. Well, not really. I mean, Nezuko survives in other ways. I don't know, how does she survive? She sleeps.
Yeah, they explain it away that instead of getting her strength from eating people, she just has to rest for really long periods of time.
I mean that's why she's named Nezuko. So.
Oh my God, you're right. How do I not notice these things with these stupid puns?
Yeah, well, it happens. But yeah, so I don't know what his reason is, if he just wants to eat, consume, whatever, or if he wants to amass power or whatever his goal is. I want to know about it. He can also take on different appearances and auras, so we need to be on the lookout for a character that could potentially turn out to be him down the road. Like, him being that character in disguise and getting close. Maybe one of the people in the Demon Slayer Corps. I don't know. That would be interesting. So it feels like that could be a swerve down the road. That could happen. But yeah, I think he's a really interesting villain just because I don't really have quite a grasp on what he is about yet. And I like that is kind of a rare thing in shonen anime, especially in those that are pretty standard aside from that, which the show kind of is. So he's an interesting villain just from the setup alone. He's manipulative, he's powerful, he's cold-hearted, everything. But you also get the feeling that there's more to that than what is on the outside. I really liked him as a villain. Yeah, and I want to see where his character goes and ultimately what his deal is. So that's another thing I really liked about the show. And aside from that, there's not much to say about this first season without going into heavy spoilers. I mean, we probably said or given away already too many details of the best moment of the show, but I had to because it's one of the standouts, and you have to mention that. It's like you watch watch the season for that moment alone, in my opinion, or for the entire final battle, whatever final arc. It's worth it if you like shonen anime. And aside from that, there's enough other good stuff in there. Some of the demons get in somewhat interesting backstories, harrowing for sure, and disturbing. But, just the whole theme of family and how that is picked up by the show in many different ways is probably the other most interesting thing. And, how it elaborates on that. We get a very interesting different take on that, and how the idea of family can be perverted and corrupted in the final arc of the show, and what true bonds really are between family members or friends or whatever, what a true family relationship really means. And that was also very interesting. And I think the show does a good job with that. Structure-wise, it's pretty standard. So if you're not in the mood for that, if you're like, oh God, I've seen so many shonen shows, I don't need another one of those, then maybe this is not for you. But I think at least pacing-wise, very few meandering moments aside, I think the pacing of that show is pretty good, even though it has a runtime of 26 episodes. The training arc is in my opinion, is reverse Dragon Ball Z time, because in the show it lasts 1.5 years, but it's only one episode long. So that was a welcome change of pace. I appreciated that. I would say if you're really in the mood for a very, very good-looking shonen show with great action scenes and some good core emotional moments, I would say give it a go. I don't think you will be disappointed. There might be some things in there that bother you or that might maybe take you out of the show, like it almost did for me and John. Again, Zenitsu. But
that's how it is.
Yeah, ultimately that show kind of pulled through, in my opinion. And I ultimately liked it. I'm interested to see where it goes. There's a movie coming up that is going to continue the story of the series, which is kind of weird choice, but that has been done more often recently in anime, I get the feeling. That's coming up. I don't know. I think the release still says just 2020. Don't know when it's exactly supposed to be released. But yeah, that's actually continuing the story. And I think the same thing is happening with Made in Abyss. So yeah, weird choice, but also maybe there's a reason for that in terms of maybe violence. I don't know. The show is already super violent. Like, it's surprising how fucking gory this show is. Holy shit.
Yeah, it is. Oh, man.
I was sometimes taken aback. Like, for a standard shonen thing, this is a very horror-esque feeling show sometimes. Like, there's a lot of dismemberments, a lot of blood, a lot of guts. Like, this is a very bloody show. So if you're too squeamish about that shit, this show can sometimes give JoJo's Bizarre Adventure a run for its money in that regard. So be aware of that. But yeah, it also makes up for some really cool moments. So make of that what you will. But yeah, I'm interested to see. Where the movie takes it and where all the stuff with the Demon Core goes, because I kind of hate all of these characters. You know, they're... Dude, the Hashira are all fundamentalist psychopaths.
Yeah, they're all assholes.
Yeah.
Like, we meet them for what? 3 episodes?
3 or
maybe?
4. Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know who any of you are, and I can't stand any of you.
Aside from Tokioka. He's a good one. And maybe, what was her name? Shinobu?
Oh yeah. Shinobu is great because, you know, she's definitely... I mean, for the most part, on Tanjiro's side. And I mean, Tomioka is there.
Is Tomioka or Tokioka?
Tomioka. Giyu Tomioka.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's kind of there, I guess. I'm sorry you don't have any friends, Tomioka.
But he is, you know, he's the one who like takes a standing for Tanjiro at a very pivotal moment of the show. Because he realizes how strong the bond between Tanjiro and Nezuko is, and that there's something important there that may change things for the better, even in the Demon Slayer Corps. But the rest won't have it. Like, and there's some scenes in the very last part of the show that are really hard to watch, in my opinion. And it's like, fucking Tanjiro, kick all their asses. Jesus Christ. I mean, all of them are probably going to get some stupid redemption arcs, but I kind of don't want it because, like I said, I hate all of them, and I kind of want to keep hating all of them and just get them wrecked, either by demons or by Tanjiro, because it's like, I don't care about narrow-minded fundamentalist assholes, which all of them are. They probably have their reason because all of them, like, have their bad experiences with demons in their past, but they just creep me the fuck out. Like, Shinobu too, to an extent, but then you start to realize, okay, that's what she is about, and you get a glimpse at her past and everything, and you understand that. And she also was, I don't know, more likable in the beginning, but still, out of all of those, I like Tomioka the most, even though he's like also very emotionless, but you get a feeling that there is something there. I mean, he's the one who sets Tanjiro on his path in the very beginning and everything. So he's probably the one most relatable character there, or most sympathetic character there.
I mean, the head of the Hashira kind of comes around, I guess. But
he's also kind of an enigma.
Yeah, I mean, we obviously we don't know much about him, but you know, he's sort of like, yeah, you know what? I see that maybe. I guess we don't need to dispose of your sister, which is like, oh, great, thanks.
How nice of you. But yeah, I wonder where he will go. Like, if he's giving me, I don't know, he's giving me Puppet Master vibes. I don't know. Maybe it's just my imagination. But that's what I meant when I said, hey, maybe Muzan is being incognito at somewhere in this thing. And I mean, there must be a reason why the Demon Slayer Corps has not even come close to catching him. They state that several times, like, Tanjiro is the only one who has seen him. And I'm like, either you really suck at your jobs or Muzan is really, really good at evading your grasp, and there must be a reason for that, and it can't just be that he is very good at masking his presence. Maybe he is kind of steering stuff in the background from somewhere and manipulating stuff in even your ranks. So I want to see if that goes, but maybe I'm giving Kimetsu no Yaiba too much credit here, because that would be a swerve that is almost too, probably maybe too clever for this show, I don't know, or too out of left field, or not standard enough. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. I'm interested to see where it goes, though. I really am. And I can't wait to see more of this amazing presentation. Give me more. Like fucking pump it into my eyes directly. Can't wait with a giant anime syringe.
Oh no! Keep the syringe away from my eyes.
Yeah, but definitely, I'm looking forward to it. I want to see the movie. The problem is we have to wait a while before those Blu-rays hit, and anime movies getting an actual theatrical distribution outside of Japan is still kind of a rare thing. So I don't know.
It's been happening more often.
Yeah, definitely.
The past few years, which is cool.
But I don't know. Like, I really doubt I'll get a screening of that Made in Abyss movie, which I really want to see. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if we'll get one. Maybe Demon Slayer is more likely than that one because it's more mainstream and was very successful. Like, I think a lot of people watch it. Heck, it was fucking named, I can't believe it, Anime of the Decade in that stupid Funimation poll.
Well, you know what? I was taking a look at that. I think it was picked as having like the best animation, maybe, as opposed to Anime of the Decade.
Even then, I would rate Mob Psycho over that.
Oh yeah, yes, absolutely.
I mean, that was in there, but it was not at the top spot, and Demon Slayer was. And don't get me wrong, like I said, the presentation is a bad thing about Demon Slayer. There's still other shows that look better, in my opinion. It's just like, for a standard shonen anime, this looks really, really good. So, I don't know. I don't know. Just in terms of animation, yeah, it would be pretty high up there. In terms of being a fantastic anime, it would not even come close to some other entries in this decade. Not even remotely. Yeah. Like, holy shit, it's too standard for that. It's too standard shonen material. Like, even Hunter x Hunter is more weird and out there and does more interesting things, and that's an older shonen, an older manga, and this ranks more in terms of story. This ranks more in the likes of Bleach or Naruto, I guess, in that department. Mm. So, yeah. We'll see where it goes. Maybe it gets a bit better when it comes to its characters. And there's some solid groundwork already laid there, so we'll see. It might get better. Like I said, I like Tanjiro. I like Inosuke to an extent. I like Muzan as the villain, or, I think he's
as much as you can.
Yes, exactly. So we'll see where it goes. Looking forward to the movie. Maybe that gets turned into a new anime season down the road. I mean, that has been happening too for some things. Like,
yeah. I mean, this show started off as a theatrical premiere of its first 5 episodes.
Yeah, there you go.
Which kind of confused me at first when I was like looking this show up. I was like, wait, what do you mean the first 5 episodes have already aired? What are you talking about? Yeah. Oh, no, it was just showing in the theaters. Okay, all right.
They're trying new things to get maybe more people interested in it, or, get a bigger pop for shows. And a theatrical release might do that. I don't know. Also, maybe a bit more money. As long as we get more of this, I'm fine with how they do it. I just hope they don't take any shortcuts like cutting down the story or character development or anything to make it work to make the story work in a movie runtime, whatever they are doing. But then again, the movie only covers like one small arc, as I've come to understand it, like the thing on the train.
Yeah.
And so I guess that should work. And maybe after that, they do a normal TV season again. We will see. But it's interesting. And, getting movie quality stuff for this is, of course, great. So, yeah, when it comes to this season, you can watch all 26 episodes on, John, help me out.
You can watch it on Crunchyroll, Verve, Funimation, or Hulu if you're here in the good old US of A.
Yeah, and if you are in Germany, if we got some German listeners, then you can watch it on Wakanim. And even though we said some things we didn't like about the show, I would still recommend this, especially if you like shonen anime. I mean, we both kind of do. We would like the show to do some things, some more interesting things, I guess. But this was still a very competent thing. And also, in regards to its presentation, it was stunning. So there's enough reason to watch it. Only if you really detest, the standard shonen formula, you should maybe refrain from checking out this show. But aside from that, this is definitely one of the better iterations on this particular formula. So yeah, check it out. It's definitely a good action show, and there is room for improvement, and maybe we'll get to see that with the movie and the coming seasons. So yeah, looking forward to that. All right, John, do you have anything else to add?
No, I think we pretty much hit on everything.
All right, then it's time, everyone. We have to find the best of the season. All right, it's time. Like I said before, John, I went first on the chop and drop. You get to go first on best of the season. So what's your favorite show from, and your runner-ups, I guess, if you want to detail that, for summer season 2019?
Thanks a bunch.
You're welcome.
All right, we'll start with the runner-up so I can kind of build my way towards what. I hope I don't have a change of heart in the middle, but we'll see. We'll see.
It has happened before.
Yes, it has. God damn it.
Though I think the previous time was my fault.
The last time I was teetering between, what was it, JoJo's and I can't remember the other one now.
Oh yeah, we split that up. You went for JoJo's and... No, wait. Did you?
It was JoJo's and Attack on Titan.
Yes. I don't know if we both decided on Attack on Titan. I had to look it up. But hey, you can look that up too, dear listeners, because we have a best of the season section on our site, animebrainfreeze.com, where you can look at all our picks for best of the season and what episodes we picked those on. So if you are interested in that, just go to our site, animebrainfreeze.com. But yeah,
listen
John,
to this shit.
The stage is yours.
Okay, all right. So there was like 5 or 6 shows that I really enjoyed this season. And I mean, all right, I'll try and walk through it as best I can. I really enjoyed Copcraft a lot because of it being the different sort of take on another world light novel horse shit that we have come to love and appreciate so much, but sort of not doing that, and have just being this really neat sort of buddy cop story that was laced with a not so subtle take on real world politics that sort of served to say, hey, yeah, anime can talk about these things. Any medium can talk about these things too, by the way, which I guess sort of ties in with Carol and Tuesday, because that show was gorgeous and had a lot of great music, and it had really good character moments, along with the real world commentary that shouldn't be ignored or thrown aside. So I feel like it's weird to say that those two shows kind of occupy a similar sort of space.
At least when it comes to some of the themes.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say from an emotional standpoint or what they're actually doing, but but some of the stuff in there is playing to the same audience, I would say.
Fruits Basket was really enjoyable, and as someone who's been curious about the show for the past 19 years, it was neat to see this like modern updated version of it that looked really good, was paced really well, and that there's more of it coming, and I'm interested to see where the stories go and how the characters sort of grow together, grow apart, what have you, because I don't know shit about Fruits Basket other than what I've seen so far. So it's another strong pick that I think bears mentioning. I really enjoyed Given a lot because it had a really strong emotional core, much like the show we talked about today. And it sort of handled this idea of like homosexual relationships in what I felt was like a really meaningful way, and it had like this incredibly strong just climax to the story that I don't know if I've ever seen many other romances aside from like maybe a select few hit so strongly. So, if you asked me, hey, John, what's your top romance of the year? I probably wouldn't have, at the beginning of the year, pulled out of my head this very gay love story. But it was so well written. It just really compelled me to see it all the way through to the end. And I really, really liked it a lot. And I think it's worth watching. Astra. Astra sort of came out of nowhere. I don't think we expected anything of it going into it, but it was really it kept me going because it was so very tense, and it had the right amount of breadcrumbing through the story, and it was super satisfying at the end, seeing the epilogue that all these characters went through and what they endured to become what they were at the end of the series. And it too was also a really, really strong, really enjoyable show. But
I know what's coming.
This may be my bias coming out, and I haven't had a chance to name it show of the season, even though we talked about it once before. I gotta go with Symphogear. XV was just like the big culmination of 7 years of telling this story, in all of the callbacks, all of the action, all of the hype. This show was so exciting from week to week. At the end of each episode, I was like, I can't wait for next week to see what happens. Why do I have to wait? Why are you making me wait? So I was just on the edge of my seat every week. All of the big character moments, all of the music, Satellite pulling out all of the stops on the animation this season. Fuck, man. It's got to be Symphogear for me. And I'm being super stupid emotional about it, but it was like, fuck, it was so good. And, maybe, it didn't exactly have all of the things in the end that we were hoping for. And it didn't answer every question, but there was enough inference there for us to, I think, draw our own conclusions. And that's just it for me, man. Symphogear was super, super good, and I'm super glad that they were able to give it a really strong conclusion. And
good pick.
What's your pick?
Well, I'm gonna work up to it too. But I can't really add much more to what you have said about the other shows. Karen Tuesday is a great uplifting story, and there was a theme in this season for me that there were a lot of shows with very good emotional core moments. Like Karen Tuesday had a lot of those, even though I felt like what it ultimately kept it from being my favorite this season was that some of its story felt, and I mentioned that in the review, like Carol and Tuesday themselves weren't really part of that. Like it wasn't their story really, or they weren't the agents of their own tale. And it was probably the one that bothered me. But there were definitely some strong emotional moments in there, and some interesting, socially themed things. And that, like I said, that it shares with Copcraft, which was fun too, and had some interesting things to say, surprisingly, considering it was just, this fantasy buddy cop show. But the production shortcomings on that kept it from making the shortlist for me. Karen Tuesday looked pretty much amazing all the way through. But again, like I said, some of the stuff in terms of storytelling didn't work for me there. But another show with great emotional core, O Maidens in Your Savage Season. A genre I usually don't really go for, with high school romance comedy thing, but with a very interesting perspective through the eyes of a bunch of young girls, and a very sober take on blossoming sexuality and everything, and all the fucking turmoil and terror that entails for the characters, and all the confusion and everything, and how painful that can be, and harsh. and how big of a change that can be in a young person's life. So, yeah, fantastic show as well, with a strong emotional core. I feel like I should mention Promare because we reviewed that, but it's also a movie, so it doesn't really count for best of the season. Yeah, I guess, but it was a special aside review because we watched it both at Comic-Con. But also, strong emotional core between, I guess, at some point, between the two main characters. So that works. Also, fantastic presentation. So I just wanted to mention it again because that was one of the highlights also for me this season. But, in regards to good drama in a high school setting with a romantic side plot, which is, a thing I don't really go for usually, Fruits Basket kind of ventures in the same area, and also worked incredibly well for me. Had good, heartfelt drama, great comedy, and I really liked what I saw and the new stuff I saw that I didn't know yet about. But I kind of want to see where the story goes before I pick it as best of the season. This was still a really good first outing, but I want to see more before I decide how I completely feel about that show. Because mostly, like we said, the first season is a lot of character setup. And we'll see where the plot and everything goes and the actual character development from that point on. So, yeah, I'm interested to see that. And, yeah, pretty much for you, like for you, it came down for me between a battle between, well, we just talked about Demon Slayer, so I don't really have to mention it again. It had some really high highs, but also some low lows. So despite it being like this amazing thing presentation-wise, it didn't really also make the short list for or my top 3 for the season, I think. I'm interested to see more, but, action-wise, even though it didn't look as good, I think Symphogear still has it beat because there's so much crazy shit happening, and there is a bunch of stuff that show can build on, and the previous seasons, as AXC aside, were great. And the 5th season, like you said, was a giant ass payoff for all of that shit. And felt so fucking satisfying. And yeah, it felt a bit rushed by the end. In my opinion, it was still a good conclusion, or as good as a conclusion to the series as I could have hoped for, regardless. So I really, really like that. And Symphogear, like I said, is almost always good. It's always super entertaining. And to get such a satisfying ending is made me so happy. I was so happy that, one of the series I consistently liked for the past years finally got its swan song. And it was a very satisfying one. So, I'm really happy that it got that. And I'm really happy that you picked it for best of the season on your end, because I still, even though I really liked Symphogear XV, I didn't pick it, because my winner is, without a doubt, Astra Lost in Space.
Which is also a great pick.
Yes. It's
a fucking awesome pick.
Yeah, it's a fantastic space adventure story with a bunch of cool things to see, an incredible cast of likable characters, and a riveting sci-fi plot that kept me on the edge of my seat until the very end. Yes, again, the actual ending, just like with Symphogear, feels a bit rushed maybe, but it was still an immensely satisfying show to watch. Great pacing, solid visuals, perfect length kinda, a nice message. Everything about this show just worked perfectly for me. It felt like it was tailor-made for me. Like, hey, you like science fiction? You like deep space shit? You like different cool planets? You like cool cast of characters who are all sympathetic, have interesting backstories, and interesting character development, and a cool, fucked up, weird-ass sci-fi plot? Here you go. We made this show for you. And I'm like, thank you. I'll take it. I'll take it. I'll watch it. I love it. And that's what happened to me when watching Astra. It was the show I was looking forward to the most each week, and that I was anxiously waiting for the next episode for each given week. So yeah, I love this show. I think it's great, and I think if you like that kind of stuff, if you like your sci-fi, if you like your space adventures, you need to watch this. You can't miss out on this. It's a great show. it's definitely more than it appears to be on the outside on the first episode. Trust me, I was surprised by that as well. And yeah, I think it could have been it would have been Symphogear in any other season probably, but I can't deny how much I loved Astra Lost in Space, so I have to pick it as best of the season this time. And yeah, since you picked Symphogear, I don't have to feel bad about it because, since that was the finale and everything, I would have liked to pick that too. But, well, now it's on the list, or now it's on the picks for this season, so that's a good thing.
Because, we were both so lukewarm about AXZ that I was just, back when we talked about it, I was just like, I mean, I didn't feel like it really earned it, but XV, whoa.
Yeah.
It earned it.
If we don't get any more Symphogear after this is a really, really good point to end it on. As best as we could have hoped for, probably. I mean, still room for improvement in small bits, like one or two scenes that should have maybe made it in there that would have made it even better, but those are nitpicks. That's like, yeah, of course, you can always make something better, I guess, but you don't need to. Like, the story is fine as it is. And the way it ended. So, yeah.
Like I said, who knows? Maybe they'll come back with a movie at some point or a new game or what have you. Because they're still writing story for it in the mobile game. Which, by the way, we didn't get to... These weird things keep happening where we talk about shows and then, after we're done recording, news comes out about it.
Yeah. We make it happen.
The week after we talked about Symphogear XV, it was announced that the mobile game X-Drive Unlimited is going to get a global version, which is pretty cool. And on the same note, after I went on my tirade about Yu-Gi-Oh!, the new series Yu-Gi-Oh! 7s was announced. So there you go. Everything I wanted is happening, kind of.
It's about time for a new season of Hunter x Hunter. Maybe that will happen soon. All right. I guess that's it for best of the season then. Two very good picks that you should check out. I mean, Symphogear, of course, check out the other seasons, the previous seasons first. We already reviewed those. Astra Lost in Space, watch whenever, because it's very well structured, well paced, small series, very condensed. So yeah, you can watch that whenever. And you should definitely do so, because those are great shows. The other shows we talked about that we mentioned in this segment are also fantastic. There was something for everyone in here this season. There was something for the action guys with Demon Slayer and Symphogear. There was something for, the science fiction guys with Astra Lost in Space. Promare, if you want to count it, also for the action people. Then there was something for the drama guys with Given and Fruits Basket. You can count Omains in that too. Something, for the slice of life, uplifting comedy, whatever, with Carol and Tuesday, and also some interesting, political themes in there, and something for the procedural guys and fantasy nerds with Copcraft, I guess. So yeah, pick your poison, pick your fucking ambrosia, because there was a bunch of good stuff this season. So yeah, really like this season a lot. And yeah,
we were spoiled for choice for summer 2019.
Yeah, we'll see how fall fares, starting with our first review next season, which is going to be a shorter season for us anyway. I'll talk about that when we do the next episode, not at length, but just to let you know what's going to happen with the show, because we're probably going to go on hiatus for a while. But aside from that, like we said, this was a really good season, and I'm looking forward to maybe some of those shows. I mean, some are definitely going to be continued, Demon Slayer and Fruits Basket, of course. But also maybe there will be some more maidens. We'll see. Maybe a Symphogear movie, but yeah, I'm happy that we got so much good stuff this season, and can't wait for more good stuff. Hopefully in the coming ones.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. That's it for us this season, but we're going to be back in 2 weeks already with the sneak peek for winter 2020 and our first review for the shows of fall 2019. So keep an eye out for that, and we'll see you soon.
Peace out, everyone.
And that is a wrap on the 87th episode of Anime Brain Freeze. All the music in our show is from the Double Dragon Neon soundtrack by the amazing Jake Kaufman. Please go to vrt.bandcamp.com and check out his awesome work. Our show is available on most of the popular podcast services, but it's always worth visiting animebrainfreeze.com for our review index and more. Leave us comments and questions on YouTube, follow us on Twitter at AnyBrainFreeze, or send an email to animebrainfreeze@gmail.com. We would love to read your feedback. Thanks for tuning in, we hope you had a good time, and please join us again on our next episode. Macht's gut.
Take care, everyone.
Next time on Anime Brain Freeze.
The quest of a young boy out for revenge
is only the prologue to a truly epic saga.